everyone, Taylor Sievers here with Sievers Blumen Farm, and today I'm gonna show you how to make a beautiful spring arrangement, just like this one. And we'll just kind of go over ways that you can place your flowers in the vase, the types of flowers that you can use, and just some general mechanical basics. I am not an expert by any means. Little background on me, I have been flower farming, this will be my 5th year, and when I began I was absolutely horrible, and I'll try to share a picture of my first ever arrangement ever. I actually went to a local farm. They were hosting a little workshop where they brought in a farmer florist from Missouri and had us go out and cut our own flowers, and then they shared how to put together a bouquet and how to arrange it in a vase. The entire time I really wasn't listening because I was just in my own little world playing with the flowers, and honestly it was pretty bad looking, but over time, especially in that first year that I started growing, I actually was originally wanting to just sell to florists and not be a florist at all myself, but then I got calls for birthday arrangements and whatnot throughout the summer, and I decided to go ahead and try putting together something. So the first flowers that I worked with weren't spring flowers, they were more summer flowers, sunflowers, zinnias, celotian, all that. But over time I kind of learned the basics of, okay, if I'm going to put this in a jar, I need to start with my greenery and how to arrange it to where things they stood up correctly in the jar. So that's a little bit of my background, and since then I've also taken a few online floristry courses. One that I really enjoyed was Ponderosa in Time's course. I'm not sure that she still does that anymore, but it was just a monthly flat fee every month to get access to all the videos. And then one that I've actually been looking at lately is through Create Academy, and it's a course by Willow Crossley. And that one's been really fun because I do know the basics now, but it is nice to see the different styles that people have. So my style is maybe not your style, and that's okay. But my biggest reason I wanted to make this today is I had a bouquet bar last month, and what I noticed about people was that they were so afraid to work with the flowers. They were so afraid that they were going to mess it up. They were so afraid to go through and pick out their stems and arrange it however they liked. I don't know if they were nervous because I was watching and they thought I was an expert, or if they're kind of like paralysis by analysis, sort of. I want to do it right, but I don't know how to do it, and all of that. So I definitely encourage you to just start picking blooms from your garden. It's not a big deal, even if they don't hold up in the vase well. It's just fun to play with them, see the different shapes and the textures and how they all flow together. That's the only way that you're going to learn how to do any sort of floristry, is just by taking the time to work with the flowers themselves. And the best part is when you grow your own flowers, it's a lot more rewarding and fulfilling whenever you've grown your own flowers and you put it together in an arrangement and you give it to your friend or family member. It's just that much more special as well. So I definitely encourage everyone to get out in their gardens, experiment, and just start snipping away at stuff and see what comes together. So this video is kind of just for an intro to how to put together an arrangement. Again, nothing super scientific about it, nothing fancy. I was not trained in a formal floristry school, and I'm sure a professional florist could go through and pick apart my arrangement for sure, because I'm already picking it apart myself. But the best thing you can do is just to get out there and start working with the flowers yourself. So I hope you enjoy this video today. Okay, so today I am going to be using this vase. They often call them compote vases. I think those are more for ones that are a little bit flatter. I guess maybe you could call it an urn. I'm not really sure, but basically it has a wider top to it, so, and it's very shallow. So if you were going to do an arrangement in this vase, you kind of need some support in order for the flower stems to stay in the container. So today what I've done is I've taken a little hunk of chicken wire and I have cut a little piece out and kind of formed it into a little ball, and I put it in the bottom. I have made arrangements before where I just do only chicken wire and none of this tape on the top, but sometimes the chicken wire will move around a little bit and it's nice to have some of this extra support on top, and you won't really see this green tape when you're done. So the green tape usually comes in a roll like this. There's another like more expensive version from Oasis that I use for, it's waterproof, so I use it for bridal bouquets. But this one is a little cheaper option. I'm not entirely sure if it's waterproof, but if you go to any floral supply place online or in person, you should be able to find this. It's fairly common. And then, you know, I have clippers, and then you'll need some water, obviously. So I've got this all set up and ready to go, and I'm gonna pour my water in, and then I'll start building from there. Something else that I like to use is a little turntable. This was just in the kitchen section at Bed Bath & Beyond. So obviously Bed Bath & Beyond is closing their doors this year. So any sort of kitchen place will likely have a turntable, or I'm sure on Amazon you can find one as well. This one's a little bit smaller. It works fairly well. If I was doing a lot more larger arrangements, I'd probably want a little bit bigger one, but works really nice because when you're working with it, you can just kind of twist it around and look at it from all different angles. So I've got it kind of propped up here on one of my, this is where I store my seeds, just so you guys can see it a little bit better. So when I start, like I said, I'm just gonna pour the water in. I could have probably done this first since I had it all set up. You don't really want to put the water all the way up to the top because it might spill out if you're transporting it. But with these, you have to make sure that you're checking the water level though, because it is so shallow and you're not really filling it up all the way. I'm gonna get it fairly close to the top, but for my jars and stuff like that, I like to do like 3/4 full. So just be aware of that, that you might need to add water more, especially because some flowers will drink a lot more than others. So I'll talk about some of the flowers that I'm going to use today. These are spring flowers. In a few weeks, I'm not going to even have some of these blooming. And some of these, like this peony here, they're already done blooming in my garden. These have just been in the cooler. You can also tell it's been in the cooler a little too long because it's browning, but for the purposes of this video, it'll work just great. So almost all of this is a spring flower arrangement video, so I wanted to go through some really great flowers to use. This is an anemone. They last really long in a vase, and mine are probably going to be blooming for a couple more weeks actually, so we're in late May right now. These are ranunculus. I can get one, and also these yellow ones right here are ranunculus. Very beautiful. This I usually cut at a more closed stage, but these have been open for quite a while. Very full, very pretty flower, and they last a long time in a vase. Also snapdragons, they're really starting to come into their prime right now, and they will in the next month do really well. So they're a little bit later than, they kind of overlap here, the seasons do, but I love snapdragons. They last forever in a vase as well, so love these. Usually they're a lot longer. This was one that my kids snapped off the end. And all these flowers usually come in lots of different colors. Another variety, variety of flower that's really good in the spring is called stock. It has a really sweet scent, so if you've ever been, I find it funny because it's used a lot in flower arrangements for funerals and everything like that. So sometimes when you come into the funeral home and you have that smell, that really overpowering scent, a lot of time it's stock that you're smelling. So a lot of people always say that they don't like that smell because they associate that with the funeral home. And I kind of thought the same thing, but then when I started growing stock, it's almost like the scent is a little bit more endearing because you are harvesting it from the garden yourself. And it doesn't have that connotation. But some other ones that are great is, this is larkspur, and it's normally not this tall for me, but I grew it in my tunnel this year, so it got extremely tall. And if you get it from the wholesaler, it's usually taller too. But very spiky flower, usually comes in blue tones, but you can see I have a pink one here. Again, the kids were playing with the flowers, so got some broken stems. For greenery, this is raspberry foliage, and actually this is a thornless variety called Joan J. So I really like to use it because it is very nice and fresh and green, and then I don't have to deal with the prickles as well. So this is another type of snapdragon. Got a stink bug on it called apple blossom. It's really pretty because it's white with a little bit of that pink throat to it. I really like the pink varieties of the snapdragons. I think those are very, very pretty. And then another plant that I like to use is called bupleurum. So this is an excellent foliage plant, and it's got little yellow flowers, but you can see it has that nice airy look to it. This reseeds really well in the garden as well. And then peonies, I think I shared a little bit about that. They're nice and big. Sometimes they can be clunky in a smaller vase like this, so you usually want to arrange them to where they're on the bottom, sort of, because they can be quite heavy. Another greenery I like to use is called mountain mint. Really prolific after you get it established in your garden. It's not as invasive as some of the other common mints, so it's a great addition. Some other things that you could use is like bachelor buttons. Those are really easy. And then I also have some white lace flower, or called Orlea. That's another one that you could use as well. Very easy reseeder in the garden. And then this year I also have some sweet peas. So they're very beautiful. The stem length is not super long on these, so they'll be perfect for this arrangement. But sometimes for like a hand-tied bouquet or a taller vase, I have to cut them on the vine, and that's something that I'll show in a later video, but that basically just means that I'm cutting a portion of the vine with the sweet pea on it as well. And that way you can use it, and the vines themselves are very pretty in an arrangement as well. So I'm just gonna get started with this. I like to start with the greenery. So I've only got a couple of pieces of my raspberry foliage. So this can be a little overwhelming, this whole plant. So I'll usually trim off the bottom leaves, and I'll probably trim off this one as well. And then you can do some more trimming as you go. When I'm measuring for height, this is gonna be really low in the vase, so I kind of hold it up to the vase. I'll try to do this in the front, and then I kind of see where it needs to be cut. And you can always like put it down, take it up, put it down, take it up. So I just kind of estimate, and then we'll get it right in there and settled. So this is very, it's good that it's kind of draping over the edge, because then we're hiding our tape. And with this one, I'll probably cut off the bottom here and hold it up again and kind of just guesstimate. So I'm gonna do it like on the opposite side, since I only have a couple of these, so that this kind of foliage is spread out a little bit more. And I may even cut this down more. So I apologize, we're in my messy garage, and you're gonna hear the cooler turn on and off, so it is a little loud. try to talk louder. With all of these flowers, when you cut them, you want to make sure that you conditioned them. So I cut these all yesterday. I did use them in some arrangements yesterday, so I made sure that they were all nice and hydrated before I used them. A nice thing about Bupleurum foliage is that you can harvest a stem, and oftentimes you can use some of the lower stems as well. So you can harvest one big stem, but then use a lot of these in the arrangement if it's a short enough arrangement. So again, with these, I'm clipping off a lot. I have plenty, and I would maybe try to use some of these, but I have plenty, so I'm not worried about it. And these are going to be a little bit lighter, so I'm just kind of sticking them in. Probably cut this down a little bit. They get really nice and airy. Sometimes they need to be managed a little bit. But I'm going to put in a couple more of these, then I'll start with some bigger flowers. So again, you can pull off the bottom stems, and you want to make sure too that there's no leaves in your water, because leaves are just going to be a recipe for rot and decay and mildew and mold and fungus in your water. Maybe not all of those pathogens, but you know what I mean. Yeah, and I could even just clip off, like, I don't have to keep it like this. Sometimes that's a little too hard to get something that's V-shaped in the base, so I might even clip off that and then use this. So it seems wasteful, but you just got to make sure that things fit okay in there. Sometimes they don't like to. And when you're getting the first few stems in, it's always a little like trying to get them to stay upright is a little tricky. But once you get a good base going, and you kind of want to crisscross the stems, so notice how I'm putting one in this way, one in this way, and then coming from the front and the back. I'm just trying to kind of build this little sort of pyramid with the stems. So not only will the chicken wire and the tape kind of help hold the flowers in place, but also my own network of stems going in each direction will help with that too. And it's really just about playing with it. Like, if you don't like how it's going, take something out. You may get this all built up and then be like, oh man, I don't like something. You can trim off a leaf or do whatever you'd like. So it's really just about whatever you want to do. Now, the nice thing about choosing a vase, like this is still a taller vase, but you don't need as long of stem length. So if you do have shorter stemmed things like sweet peas, then that's perfect. You can still get something with height using something like this. So I'll put my first ranunculus bloom in. I'm going to try to do it towards the camera, but it's kind of, oftentimes I work towards myself instead. But it's a bigger bloom, so I'm just going to put it down in there. I'll see. I don't really know if I'm liking that. Kind of want to have them a little more upright at first, and then you can kind of build around, but you have to have a good base before you can get them going upright. I'm going to add in this anemone. Actually, I think I'm just going to keep going with the ranunculus, to be honest, so we can make sure that they're all spread out. So don't be afraid to, a big mistake that I make often and other people make is that they're afraid to, it's kind of hard to keep the flower upright. But you still want height to an arrangement like this, so make sure you got a good base going. And then I think the rule is, like, you want your arrangements, the flowers, to be 2 times the height of the container. I don't always do that, but you know, it just depends on what you're doing. If I'm doing like a little pint jar arrangement, to me it's not that big of a deal, because oftentimes a little cute short arrangement is okay, and oftentimes I don't have stems that are long enough. see here, I'm just trying to kind of spread them out and around. I'm going to add in some of this stock maybe. I'm just kind of alternating where the flowers are placed. You don't want all the flowers in one, like all of the ranunculus in one spot. There's an art to that. There is ways that you can do that, but it's almost like you group them in like threes, or you group them so that they look like a flower within themselves, and then you kind of move that grouping throughout. So maybe you have a group of 3 here and over here, and it's almost like they're one flower themselves and they're alternated. So that is kind of a style that you can practice as well. Get some of this. Snapdragons like to go towards the light. So if you ever harvest them and then you come out after they've been hydrating and you notice that they're all bendy, it's usually because there's some sort of light source that they're bending towards and they weren't supported properly. So sometimes you can wrap them up in like a paper sleeve just to keep them straight. But same with when they're growing, like if the plant starts to flop over, oftentimes they'll just kind of grow up towards the light, so you'll get this kind of bent shape to the stem. So I always have to grow them with flower netting. And it's okay if they like droop around the side. It's kind of just their charm, I think. Sometimes you just don't really know where to put things. So I cut that one, but I'm gonna put it to the side for a minute. Maybe bring in some of these sweet peas. This is my first year getting like a good crop of sweet peas, so I've been really excited to use them. They do, you know, they're not supposed to last really long. This is a pretty long stem for a sweet pea. They're not supposed to last really long in a vase, but they really have been. Like I've had some on my counter and they've been doing really well. So I definitely wouldn't rule out sweet peas if you're selling at like a local market or anything, or just in your garden for sure. But if you're also a grower, I wouldn't rule them out as a cut flower, just because they really do last a lot longer than what they say in the books, in the cut flower books. With these, I'm just gonna pack this thing full because they're a nice filler here. Sometimes more greenery is good because it kind of creates this, I don't know, it gives you something to focus on because there's green between all the colors, but sometimes just a mass of color is really awesome too. I thought that this sweet pea was really cool. So as I was working, I noticed that the back is kind of getting, like the front has more of a presence than the back. The back is kind of looks like the back of an arrangement. So that's okay. If you, definitely something to think about, if this is going to go on a table against a wall, you can build it differently to where maybe you put the tall stuff in the back and then the shorter stuff in the front. I was meaning to do this more 3D, so I'll probably come around to this side and do some lower ranunculus, but I'm gonna add in some of this yellow. I have some already. Again, these aren't like the best blooms right now. You probably can't tell on the camera, but I had some thrips, and these have been in the cooler for a little bit because I wasn't sure I wanted to sell them. It's also really slow after Mother's Day for sure. So it's nice because I get to play with some blooms though. And I've been enjoying them on my countertop, which is something that I don't get to do often because I'm so busy selling them, and or I don't have time to, like, you know, mess with them. More. So probably gonna go in and add some greenery here, just to fill in space. And I'm just really gonna clip a lot of this off. And that's okay. Totally okay. And it's gonna be harder now to fit this inside this because it's starting to get more full. So again, I'm gonna clip off some more singular. But make sure. I love sweet peas. Like the downside is, you know, like it takes a lot of them to make a good bunch, but they smell so good. I mean, this arrangement smells so good right now. This one's really pretty too. I love that color. Like, I think this year my theme is sweet peas. Like, I could not stop. I guess that's not true. Roses is also another theme of mine. And you could put some garden roses in here too. That's something I forgot to mention. They're blooming at this time and they're in their prime at this time, which is really awesome. So you could also do some garden roses as well. But all these flowers you could grow yourself in your own home garden. Some of these got a little bit of a jump start because I do have an unheated tunnel, but to be honest, it's been open for most of the time. So it's been more like it's actually like the heat is hurting it right now because it's hotter in the tunnel. So I kind of wish I would have had some field grown stuff as well. Like my ranunculus, they're all getting ready to be done. So I'm just making this really, again, some of it's an art and some of it is just like, I'm gonna shove as many flowers as I can in this space. So now, like if you're a person that orders flowers normally, you'll notice that a lot of times there is going to be a lot more greenery because that makes the arrangement a little more cost effective. And it's not bad to have greenery. Again, it kind of like helps your eye a little bit when you have that. Helps you kind of be able to focus on one thing. Like if you had a garden rose in here and really tried to make the focus about that, it'd be really pretty. But as you can see, this side's getting really full. May add in a few more sweet peas here. You can see my conundrum right now. I don't know if you can see. It just seems like there's a blank space right here. It's like I need to graduate this down. So I need to fill in this gap, and I'm trying to put this one in there, but not having much luck. This greenery is really good, this mountain mint. So I forgot about this, so I might stick some of this in, and that'll help kind of take up some space in here, fill in some of these gaps. Yeah, that's perfect. So and this lasts really long. Actually, this I cut this before Mother's Day, and so we're in late May right now. So I probably cut it like the week before Mother's Day, so like beginning week of May. So I would probably say that I'm gonna leave this now. Like I think I'm very happy with this. It's really full, and if I was making this for a customer, this is quite a large order. To be honest, this is a very big bouquet. I would probably do, I'll probably look at this video later and I'll say, oh my gosh, that's so unbalanced. So you kind of have to look at it at the end, maybe walk away for a little bit and then come back and be like, okay, what do I need to fix? So I might do that in a little bit, and just step away, take some time, and then come look at it again. But to be honest, if you're just beginning in floristry, or if you're just a farmer florist, like, people are just gonna be happy about this. I mean, who would not be happy with this on their table? They're a sad person if they wouldn't be happy. So I don't really think that anybody would be super upset by this. So you could sell this or make this for a party as is, and I think everybody would really, really love it. But sometimes, like, this anemone kind of was stuck down in there. You might need to pull it up a little bit. But for the most part, I think this looks good. So we're gonna leave it for now.